Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise for the arrival of the Honorable Senate President and the Senators of the Republic of the Philippines.
Anong 19th? The 19th session of the Senate in the third regular session of the 17th Congress is hereby called to order. Senator Antonio Trillanes IV will lead the chamber in prayer.
Sa ngalan ng Ama, ng Anak, ng Espiritu Santo. Amen. Ang Panginoon, turuan mo akong maging bukas palad, turuan mo akong maglingkod sa iyo, at magbigay ng ayon sa nararapat, na walang hinihintay mula sa iyo, na makibakang di inaalintana, mga hirap na dinaranas, sa tuwina'y magsumikap na hindi humahanap ng kapalit, ng kaginhawaan, at di naghihintay, kundi ang aking mabatid, ng loob mo'y siyang sinusundan. Amen.
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members, the Honorable Senators Angara, Aquino, Binay, De Lima, Drilon, Ejercito, Escudero, Gatchalian, Gordon, Onasan, Ontiveros, Lacson, Legarda, Pacquiao, Pangilinan, Pimentel, Poe, Recto, Trillanes, Villanueva, Villar, Zubiri, Senate President Soto III.
With 15 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. The Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 18th session, Tuesday, September 11, 2018, and consider the same as approved. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
Mr. President, before we move to reference of business, I'd like to acknowledge guests of the Senate President, Ms. Nita Mabatid, consultant for OFWs of the Office of the President, and we also have with us Lolita Del Rosario, Cooperative Development Council, and the Cooperative Development Council of Balanga, Bataan. And I also have with us, Mr. President, from Russia, Andrei Berdnikov of the Russian Embassy, together with my good friends Alexander Shlikov and Igor Ozelovich, and Mr. Gerard Cañete. They are members of our Russian Federation of the Philippine Eskrima-Kali-Arnis Federation, Mr. President, and Gerard is with the local Executive Vice President of the Federation.
Welcome to our guests in the Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Reference of business. Messages from the House of Representatives. Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 September 2018, it passed the following House bills in which it requests the concurrence of the Senate. House number 8083 entitled An Act Amending Sections 4, 5, 20, 22, 27, 28, 34, 40, 50, 73, 112, 117, 204, 222, 237, 237-8, 255, 256, 257, 258, 260, 261, 262, 263, 264, 265, 266, 275, 288, 290, and adding Section 6-A, 282-A, 291, 292, 293, 294, 295, 296, 297, 298, 299, 300, 301, 301-A, 301-B, 302, 303, 304, 305, 306, 307, 308, 309, 310, 311, 312, 313, and 314 under the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997 as amended and for other purposes.
Referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
House Number 7652 entitled, An Act Requiring Public Telecommunications Entities to Provide Nationwide Mobile Number Portability to Subscribers.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
House Number 8155 entitled, An Act Renewing for Another 25 Years the Franchise Granted to Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Inc. under Republic Act Number 5172 as amended by Republic Act Number 7530.
Referred to the Committee on Public Services.
House Number 8157 entitled, An Act Renewing for Another 25 Years the Franchise Granted to Tirad Paz Radio TV Broadcasting Network, Inc. under Republic Act Number 8070, entitled, An Act Granting the Tirad Paz Radio TV Broadcasting Network, Inc. a franchise to construct, establish, operate, and maintain commercial AM/FM radio television stations in the Philippines and for other purposes.
To the Committee on Public Services.
House Number 6326 entitled, An Act Converting the Midsayap Extension Office of the Land Transportation Office, LTO, located in Midsayap, North Cotabato, into a regular LTO district office and appropriating funds therefor.
To the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
House Number 7882 entitled, An Act Declaring the Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary of Manaoag and its environs located in the municipality of Manaoag, province of Pangasinan, a tourist destination, providing for its development and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Tourism, Public Works, and Finance.
House Number 8084 entitled, An Act Rectifying the Period to Constitute the Search Committee for the Presidency of the Palumpon Institute of Technology and extending the deadline for its compliance with the requirements of the Commission on Higher Education for conversion into a state university, thereby amending Sections 9 and 25 of Republic Act Number 10599.
Referred to the Committee on Education.
House Number 8112 entitled, An Act Declaring February 13 of every year a special non-working holiday in the city of Parañaque, Metro Manila, in commemoration of its founding anniversary.
Referred to the Committee on Local Government.
House Number 8133 entitled, An Act Authorizing the Central Mindanao University to construct additional classrooms, laboratories, and dormitories and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Education, Public Works, and Finance.
House Number 8140 entitled, An Act Establishing a Provincial Office of the Commission on Higher Education, CHED, in the province of Negros Occidental and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Education and Finance.
House Number 8141 entitled, An Act Establishing a Campus of the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, PUP, in Caloocan City North, to be known as the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, PUP, Caloocan City North Campus, and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Education and Finance.
House Number 8142 entitled, An Act Declaring the Island of Balangigi in the municipality of PUB Corpus, province of Masbate, an ecotourism site and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Environment, Tourism, and Finance.
House Number 8146 entitled, An Act Establishing a Brackish Water Multi-Species Hatchery in the municipality of Lala, province of Lanao del Norte, and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Agriculture and Finance.
And House Number 8151 entitled, An Act Converting the Satellite Office of the Maritime Industry Authority located in Calbayog City, province of Samar, into an extension office and appropriating funds therefor.
Referred to the Committees on Public Services and Finance.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 September 2018, it designated Representatives Herrera D, Cayetano, Lagman, Go, De Jesus, T, and Antonio as conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Number 4113 entitled, An Act Increasing the Maternity Leave Period to 100 days for female workers in the government service and in the private sector, and granting an option to extend for an additional 30 days without pay, and Senate Number 1305 entitled, An Act Increasing the Maternity Leave Period to 120 days for female workers in the government service and the private sector, with an option to extend for an additional 30 days without pay, providing a parental leave period for adoptive parents, and granting an additional 30 days for solo mothers and for other purposes.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Letter from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 September 2018, it designated Representative Ebardone, Vice Representative Herrera D as conferee to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing provisions of House Number 684 entitled An Act Amending Republic Act Number 53 as amended, otherwise known as an act to exempt the publisher, editor, or reporter of any publication from revealing the source of published news or information obtained in confidence by including within its coverage journalists from broadcast and news agencies, and Senate Number 1255 entitled An Act Expanding the Coverage of Exemptions from Revealing the Source of Published News or Information Obtained in Confidence by including journalists from broadcast, news agencies, and Internet publications, amending for the purpose Section 1 of Republic Act Number 53 as amended by Republic Act Number 1477.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Letters from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 September 2018, it concurred with the Senate amendments to the following House bills. House Number 5880 entitled An Act Upgrading the Amay Pakpak Medical Center in Marawi City, Province of Lanao del Sur and appropriating funds therefor. House Number 1926 entitled An Act Creating a Barangay to be known as Barangay Poblacion 2 in the Municipality of Villanueva, Province of Misamis Oriental, and House Number 7778 entitled An Act Reapportioning the Province of Isabela into 6 legislative districts.
To the Archives.
Letters from the House of Representatives informing the Senate that on 10 and 11 September 2018, it adopted the following. Senate Number 1455 as an amendment to House Number 7503 entitled An Act Declaring Filipino Sign Language as the National Sign Language of the Filipino Deaf and the official sign language of government in all transactions involving the deaf and mandating its use in schools, broadcast media, and workplaces. Senate Number 1654 as an amendment to House Number 6551 entitled An Act Converting the Bicol Sanitarium in the Municipality of Cabusao, Province of Camarines Sur, into a geriatric medical center to be known as the Bicol Regional Geriatric Medical Center, upgrading its service facilities, authorizing the increase of its medical personnel, and appropriating funds therefor. Senate Number 1586 as an amendment to House Number 5881 entitled An Act Establishing the Soc Sargent General Hospital in the Municipality of Suralya, Province of South Cotabato, and appropriating funds therefor. Senate Number 1649 as an amendment to House Number 6521 entitled An Act Upgrading the Bataan Provincial Hospital in the Province of Bataan into a Level 3 Teaching and Training Hospital to be now known as the Bataan General Hospital and Medical Center and appropriating funds therefor, and Senate Concurrent Resolution Number 13 as an amendment to House Concurrent Resolution Number 20 entitled Concurrent Resolution urging the Commission elections to reset to October 11 to 17, 2018 from October 1 to 5, 2018, the filing of the certificates of candidacy in connection with the May 13, 2019 national and local elections.
To the Archives.
Bills on first reading. Senate Number 1994 entitled An Act Creating the Department of Disaster Resilience, defining its powers and functions and appropriating funds therefor, introduced by Senator Sani Angara.
Referred to the Committees on National Defense, Civil Service, Ways and Means, and Finance.
Senate Number 1995 entitled An Act Reforming Electoral Campaign by instituting 2 rounds of election for President, Vice President, and Senators, requiring COMELEC-sponsored campaign advertisements and town hall-style debates and for other purposes, introduced by Senator Richard J. Gordon.
Referred to the Committees on Electoral Reforms, Public Information, Mass Media, and Finance.
Senate Number 1996 entitled An Act Instituting the Magna Carta for Filipino Seafarers, introduced by Senator Risa Ontiveros.
To the Committees on Labor and Foreign Relations.
Resolutions. PS Resolution Number 888 entitled Resolution requesting the Honorable Supreme Court to consider the issuance of rules of procedure for the presentation and admission of the results of sniffing by trained canine dogs and the swabbing of drug samples as competent evidence in drug cases, introduced by Senator Emmanuel Manny D. Pacquiao.
Referred to the Committee on Justice.
PS Resolution number 889 entitled Resolution Directing the Senate Committee on Civil Service, Government Reorganization, and Professional Regulation to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation on possible conflict of interest arising from government contracts obtained by kin of government employees and/or officials with the end in view of coming up with possible remedial legislation to prevent the occurrence or recurrence of such situations in the future, introduced by Senator Trillanes IV.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Committee reports. Committee report number 439, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Government Corporations and Public Enterprises, Economic Affairs, Ways and Means, and Finance on Senate number 1997 with Senators Gordon, Binay, Gatchalian, Angara, Legarda as authors thereof, entitled An Act Creating the Regional Investment and Infrastructure Coordinating Hub of Central Luzon and for other purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate number 1325, sponsor Senator Richard J. Gordon.
Referred to the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 440, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Agriculture and Food, Finance, and Ways and Means on Senate number 1998 with Senators Recto, De Lima, Villanueva, Ontiveros, Gatchalian, Poe, and Villar as authors thereof, entitled An Act Replacing the Quantitative Import Restrictions on Rice with Tariffs, Lifting the Quantitative Export Restrictions on Rice, and Creating the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 8178 as amended by Republic Act number 9496 and as further amended by Republic Act number 10848 and for other purposes, recommending its approval in substitution of Senate numbers 1476, 1689, 1839, taking into consideration PS Resolution numbers 143, 146, and House number 7735, sponsor Senator Cynthia A. Villar.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd just like to recognize special guests in the gallery. I think they're still here. No other than Tita Kate Gordon and Tita Mila Drilon are with us here. Your wife is here, sir. You know, we may be senators, but the speakers of our houses are here. My wife was here earlier.
I saw Audrey Zubiri.
That's right. The speaker of my house is here, sir. She's right there. They're over there. Yan ang talagang totoong boss. Kung kami po ay mga tigre, yan po ang mga trainer ng tigre. We also have Tita Jane Honasan with us as well. Who else is here? So, thank you.
We would like to welcome to the Senate the Commanders-in-Chief of the Houses.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd like to resume consideration on a bill, Senate Bill number 1597. This is an act institutionalizing the grant of student fare discount privileges on public transportation and for other purposes. Mr. President, I so move.
Any objection?
You are?
Chair hears none. Motion is approved.
It's just, we're just going to close the period.
May we know the
Yes, Mr.
parliamentary
President.
status?
The status is we're in the period of interpellation, and we'd like to recognize the sponsor, Senator Sonny Angara, to sponsor the measure.
Senator Sonny Angara is
Student
recognized.
This is your 1597 student fare discount privileges.
Mr. President, no member of the Senate has signified an intent to interpolate, but Senator Recto has said that he wishes to propose amendments at the proper time.
Yes. We concur, Mr. President. We spoke to Senator Recto, who was supposed to interpolate this measure. He decided to just ask questions during the period of amendments, as he's proposing a few amendments, Mr. President. And is it okay with boss? New student discount, boss? Thank you, Mr. President. With that, we move to close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? The chair hears none. Period of interpellation is hereby closed.
Thank you, Mr. President. While the committee and our individual members are preparing the amendments for another time, we move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, where is Senator Bam? I believe Senator Bam will deliver a privileged speech, but
Can pass the local first. One or two local.
while we're waiting Senator Bam, with the permission of the body, we'll just tackle a few of local bills. Mr. President, Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 2131 under Committee Report number 317. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Motion is approved. House Bill 2131's consideration is in order.
Mr. President, I was just told, before we tackle the bill, I was just told by Senator Sherwin, his Sangguniang Kabataan, the Sangguniang Kabataan members of Valenzuela City are here with us today, Mr. President, and he would like me to recognize them. Maybe we can ask them to stand. Oh, these are the...
Would like to welcome all the members
gentlemen
and
and ladies.
officers of the Sangguniang Kabataan of Valenzuela to the Senate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, the status is we're in the period of interpellation. No member, I believe, no member has signified their intent to interpellate, so we move to close the period of interpellation on this House bill.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpellation is closed.
Amendments. There being no amendments as well from the sponsor and our members, we move to close the period of amendments. I so move.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments closed.
Mr. President, I move that we approve on second reading House Bill number 2131. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 2131 is approved on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
With the permission of the
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority
sponsor,
Leader.
we'll recognize now our distinguished gentleman from Tarlac, Senator Bam Aquino.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President, Mr. Majority Floor Leader. Mga kaibigan, mga kababayan. Yesterday, there was talk about the opposition's alleged plans to overthrow the government. But today, I would like to share with you our true and real plans. As history would have it, 46 years ago, a devious plot against our democracy was uncovered by a young senator by the name of Ninoy Aquino. He was 39 years old back then. On September 13, 1972, former Senator Aquino stood before his colleagues and addressed the nation through a privileged speech on Oplan Sagittarius. He said, and I quote, "In astronomy, Sagittarius is the 9th sign of the zodiac, denoted by the symbol of the arrow or dart. The ancient Greeks represented this constellation as a centaur in the act of shooting an arrow. I wonder if this plan is intended to shoot down our cherished civil liberties with the arrow or dart of a Marcos military rule. Or could this be an arrowhead or the spearhead of a more devilish plot to transform our republic into a garrison state?" In his speech, former Senator Ninoy Aquino went on to outline military and police resources and where they would be deployed to effectively blanket our beloved country in intimidation. He also warned that the Marcos administration would use the recent bombings which he alleged to be orchestrated by the government itself, as reason to declare martial law. Martial law, they will say, is a solution to the country's problems. They will say it's the answer to this nation in crisis. Ninoy Aquino stood courageous before the Senate and asserted, and I quote, "I do not know what is going on in the mind of the President. I will never attempt to divine what his thinking is. But let me say that at the height of the Hook depredations in 1950, when the armed partisans numbered more than 15,000, when the Hooks were actually maneuvering in squadron and battalion strength, tying up the entire military command of the armed forces of the Philippines, never was martial law declared in our country. I do not recall when martial law was ever declared since the birth of this republic. If the President is thinking of clamping down martial law, I dare say that there must be another, more devious plot. Therefore, I should conclude that Operation Sagittarius is properly named because as the arrow and the dart, it may spearhead what we may actually find as the end of the republic." End quote. 10 days after these words were spoken, former President, dictator and plunderer Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, and our beloved country came to know the consequences of absolute power and absolute impunity. For the veneer of safer streets and the appearance of a disciplined society, the Filipino people paid in pain and in blood. And of course, as we know, Senator Ninoy Aquino was prisoner number 1. In the 9 years under martial law rule, there were 3,240 victims of salvage or extrajudicial killings. 34,000 Filipinos were tortured. 70,000 were detained for being so-called enemies of the state. And 75,730 cases of human rights violations were filed. For the roads, bridges, and buildings touted by Marcos apologists, the Filipino people incurred a debt of 395,509 million pesos. Today, this is equivalent to 3,362,572,384,600 pesos. Hanggang po ngayon, binabayaran pa rin natin ang utang ng Marcos regime habang pumipila ang mga Pilipino para sa bigas na may bukbok at nalulunod po sa gastos ang napakaraming mahihirap na pamilya. For the service to the Filipino people, the Marcos family was paid in personalized gold bars, jewelry, property around the world, invaluable art, an infamous collection of shoes, and a lifetime of luxury. Ang martial law daw po na sinabing magiging sagot sa sugat ng lipunan, pantakip lang pala sa kanilang kasakiman. Mga kababayan, hindi po sagot ang martial law noon at lalong hindi po siya sagot ngayon. Malubha pa rin ang sakit ng taong bayan at lalong tumitindi ang kahirapan. Umiikot po ako sa iba't ibang mga lugar ngayong taong ito. Umiikot po sa mga iba't ibang konsultahang bayan. Ang kinukonsulta po namin, mga magsasaka, mga mangingisda, mga urban poor, mga market vendors, mga jeepney at tricycle drivers, ano po yung sinasabi po nila? Sabi nila, Senator Bam, nalulunod na po kami sa taas ng presyo ng bilihin. Hindi na kami makahinga sa laki po ng gastos ng aming pamilya. Kahit anong kayod, hindi na po kami makaahon. Mga kababayan, may krisis muli po ang ating lipunan. Ito po ang kataasan ng presyo ng bigas at kataasan ng presyo ng mga bilihin. Mga kaibigan, nababalot muli sa takot ang mamamayan. May isang senador po na kinulong. May isa naman pong pinapatahimik. Meron na pong mga pinapatay na pare, mga mayor, mga vice mayor, pati po mga kabataang Pilipino. Gayunpaman, hindi pa rin po martial law ang sagot dito at mas lalong na hindi po isang diktadura. Kawalan ng epektibong plano, kawalan ng political will, kawalan ng puso ng mga lingkod bayan at puso para sa mga mahihirap ang sanhi po sa mga krisis natin ngayon. At solusyon at aksyon at malasakit mula sa gobyerno ang lunas na hinahanap po ng taong bayan. Last May 23, I gave a privileged speech outlining solutions to the rising prices. Many of us were here. And I'd like to note that back then, inflation back in April was at 4.5%, already beyond the 2 to 4% target range set by the government. Last August, alarmingly, inflation hit 6.4%. We have not seen inflation this high in almost 10 years. In that privileged speech last May, I mentioned 3 things government can do to provide Filipino families with relief from soaring prices. First, the government should ensure that the unconditional cash transfer program under the train law is fully implemented. Doon po, lahat tayo nagkakaisa. Sumasaklolo na po ang ating mga kababayan. Ang mga jeepney at tricycle drivers, mga magsasaka at mangingisda, mga tindera po sa palengke, hirap na po ang Pilipino at hindi pa rin po naibibigay ng lubos ang pinangakong tulong mula po sa gobyerno. To this day, there are gaps in the implementation of the cash transfer program and other social mitigating measures under train, such as the Pantawid Pasada program na ngayon pa lang po niro-roll out in September of 2018. And of course, nowhere to be found is the 10% discount on NFA rice. My second suggestion back then was to address the rice issue by solving the management problem of the NFA. And I think many of us here have called for the resignation of NFA Administrator Jason Aquino. Nung nag-speech po ako ng Mayo, naaalarma na po yung mga tao sa presyong 42 pesos per kilo para po sa bigas. Ngayon, sa sobrang lala ng krisis, umabot po 3 weeks ago na 70 pesos per kilo ang bigas sa Zamboanga. At pinipilit po na pakainin pa ang ating mga mahihirap na kababayan ng bigas na nagkaroon ng bukbok. Thankfully, in Zamboanga, prices have stabilized. It's still around 50 pesos plus. Mataas pa rin po kumpara sa mga presyo ng bigas last year. Sa laki po ng kasalanan ng NFA Administrator sa taong bayan, sana naman po makahanap na tayo ng mas mahusay na pinuno po dito. My third suggestion back in May was to suspend and roll back the excise tax on fuel from the train law by passing Senate Bill 1789 or the Bawas Presyo Bill. I will admit, dear countrymen, that speech was actually a glimpse into the opposition's playbook. In the past few days, there's been talk about the opposition doing planning, colluding, talking about things that they want to do. Ngunit hindi po pagpapabagsak ng gobyerno ang pinaplano po namin. Ang pinaplano po namin ang pag-angat ng mga kababayan po nating nasa laylayan ng lipunan. Ang tunay na plano po ng oposisyon ay magsama-sama, gawin po ang lahat ng aming kayang gawin, ibigay ang lahat ng aming kayang ibigay, para hindi na po malunod sa gastos at hindi po mamatay sa hirap at gutom ang ating mga kababayan. Ang plano po ng oposisyon, magkaisa, hindi lang po ang oposisyon, pero pati po ang administrasyon, magkaisa at magtrabaho para solusyonan ang krisis sa taas po ng presyo ng bigas at sa taas ng presyo ng bilihin bago po pumatak ang Enero. Mula po sa privilege speech ko noong Mayo hanggang sa press conference na kasama po si Vice President Robredo noong nakaraang Lunes, inalahad po namin ang oplang ginhawa na inasahan po naming magiging lunas sa hirap na hinaharap po ng ating mga kababayan. Tatlong solusyon, tatlong aksyon po. Una, na mabigyan ng sapat na proteksyon at benepisyo ang ating mga kababayang nangangailangan. Pagbutihin ang pagpapatupad ng cash transfer program at iba pang social protection initiatives. We challenge the administration to quickly facilitate the release of all of these cash transfers at the soonest possible time to all of the 10 million Filipino families. And we propose at the proper time here in the Senate to increase the 200 pesos to 400 pesos, giving the alarming spike in inflation. The government must push for the complete and effective implementation of the Pantawid Pasada program, the 10% discount on rice for the poorest Filipino families, and the rest of the social mitigating measures in the train law. We also propose to include tricycle drivers in the Pantawid Pasada program. Hindi ko rin maintindihan kung bakit nawala po yung mga tricycle drivers nung ginagawa natin yung batas sa Pantawid Pasada program. Nasa kamay po ng administrasyon ang pagpapatupad ng programang ito. Tutukan po sana ng gabinete ng Presidente para mabigyan ng ginhawa ang ating mga pamilyang Pilipino. Pangalawa, at mukhang ito po ay nangyayari na, palitan na ang liderato ng NFA at resolbahin ang issue ng murang bigas sa ating bansa. Immediately, the NFA should bring back and maintain the mandated 15-day buffer stock. Ito po, order number 1 para maibabaho ang presyo ng bigas sa merkado. Naniniwala po kami na kaya itong tuparin ng NFA sa loob ng isang buwan, basta't meron po silang matino at mahusay na NFA administrator. With a 15-day buffer stock, NFA can make rice available and affordable for Filipinos, and hopefully this rice crisis will be over before the Christmas holidays. Nasa NFA po at administrasyon ang sandata para talunin na ang krisis po sa bigas. Kailangan lang po nila gawin ang trabaho po nila. Pangatlo, itigil na po sana ang excise tax sa petrolyo. Huwag po tayong papayag na magdadagdag na naman ng 2 piso sa diesel at gasoline ngayong Enero. Ipasa po natin ang bawas presyo bill. Suspindihin po natin ang mga probisyon ng train law na nagpapataas ng presyo ng diesel at gasolina. Marami naman po, pumunta na rin dito, kahit po mga miyembro ng gabinete, aminado na ang pagtaas ng diesel at gasolina ang mga nagpapataas po sa presyo ng bilihin. At ngayon, na napakataas po ng presyo ng krudo sa mundo, hindi na ata tama na dito pa tayo huhugot ng pera po para sa gobyerno. Basta pagtulungan po ng Kongreso at certified urgent ng taong bayan at sana po ng Pangulo, kaya ho natin gawing batas ito bago magpasko. We need to bring down prices and provide relief to poor Filipino families. We urge the President to take the lead on this matter. The opposition is ready. Members of the administration are also ready. Kailangan lang po natin itong itulak. Yung NFA po, magandang pangitain na umalis na po si Administrator Jason Aquino. Sana po ang ipalit isang tao na kayang gawin ang mandato ng NFA. Sana po wala nang pumipila para sa bigas sa mga palengke at hindi po nilarasyon ng NFA rice. Yan po isang kaagad-agad na pwede ho natin gawin. Maybe within a month or 2, we can do this already. Para ngayong Christmas naman po, hindi ganito kalala ang sitwasyon po ng bigas sa ating bansa. Yung presyo, alam naman ho natin na yung presyo ng krudo sa mundo yung nagtutulak po ng presyong pataas. Huwag na ho nating dagdagan pa. Gamit po ng excise taxes po mula po sa train law. Ito pong second round ngayong Enero. Kung itutuloy ho natin yan, saan po pupulutin yung inflation rate ho natin sa Enero? Kailangan ho natin gawin yung mga kaya natin para maibaba ang inflation, maibaba ang pagtaas ng presyo ng bilihin, hindi po yung dinadagdagan pa po natin. Ito pong tatlong solusyong ito, kayang gawin. This can be done before Christmas. Ang kailangan ho natin pagkaisahan. And what we're asking here is that all of us work together, the executive, the legislative, even if some economic managers don't want to see some of these provisions, pwede ho natin gawin to. I remember when we passed the Free Tuition Act, initially, the economic managers were also against it. But the Senate and Congress and the President took a stand. At sinabi natin, itutulak natin ng libreng tuition para sa kapakanan ng ating kabataan at sa ating mga pamilyang Pilipino. Again, we're called to be independent. Hinihiling po sa atin na gawin ang ating makakaya para masolusyonan po natin ang problemang ito at kaya po natin itong gawin bago po magpasko. Ang kasaysayan ng unang magpapakita po na hindi martial law, hindi po propaganda ang sagot sa mga sakit ng bayan. Ang sagot po pagkakaisa, pagkayod, pagtrabaho, pag-aksyon po ng gobyerno, pag-aksyon ng lahat na may pakialam at malasakit sa ating bayan. Tama na po, sobra na po ang pahirap sa taong bayan. Pagtulungan po natin ang oplang ginhawa, pagtulungan po natin ang mga pwedeng gawing solusyon na ito, solusyonan, aksyonan po natin ang mga totoong pangangailangan ng ating kapwa Pilipino. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Maraming salamat po, Majority Floor Leader. Thank you very much.
Where do you want me to refer?
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we move that we refer the speech of the good gentleman from Tarlac to the Committee on Rules. I so move, Mr. President.
Refer to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we still have additional guests that I missed out to earlier to greet. We have with us guests of Senator Manny Pacquiao, Mayor Conrado Laza of Hagonoy, Davao del Sur. We also have with us senior high school students from Lourdes School in Quezon City, headed by Ms. Charity Reyes. I think these are the gentlemen and ladies in blue on the right side. And we also have members of the National Movement of Young Legislators, headed by their National President, Councilor Mylon Alejandrino. And finally, we also have with us Abisha Beatrix Florante, a grade 2 student who is a third placer in the 2018 International Mathematics Wizards Challenge in Jakarta, Indonesia, participated by 1,035 contestants. She came out number 3. So they're here with us today, Mr. President.
Welcome to the Senate, to our guests. Thank you.
Senator Angara. Maybe we just ask for a 1-minute suspension, Mr. President, while we await the sponsor of the local government committee.
Session is suspended.
Ready to issue, Mr. President?
Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to resume consideration on House Bill number 2132 under Committee Report number 318. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Motion is approved.
Mr. President, we are now in the period, this is an act declaring June 15 of every year special non-working holiday under the municipality of Opol in Misamis Oriental. We are in the period of interpellation, Mr. President, and I believe no member has signified to interpellate the local bill, local bill.
That's correct, Mr. President.
So I move to close the period of interpellation, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpellation is closed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendments? There being no amendments, both committee and individual, Mr. President, we move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments is closed.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading House Bill number 2132. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 2132 is approved on second reading.
Mr. President, we move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 2132.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration House Bill number 5563. I so move.
Any objection? Motion is adopted.
This is the declaring April 21 of every year special non-working holiday municipality of Orani in the province of Bataan. The statuses were in the period of interpellation, Mr. President. Nobody has been listed. Yes, Mr. President. May we recognize Senator
Minority
Bilbao.
Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, if the gentleman will yield to just one question which is addressed to all the holidays being proposed. Has the committee come up with a standard on which of these local, which of these local holidays should be enacted? Because I noticed that there are some, usually foundation days are granted. But other than foundation days, there are so many other occasions which are being celebrated. One went a little overboard and recognizes the flood in some province in the Visayas, another the typhoon, another, in other words, what we're just asking the committees, should we have some standard rather than do this on an ad hoc? All kinds of occasions are being presented. Of course, these are local bills, and theoretically, this has no national implication. We can debate on that point if there are no national implications, but all that we're asking, Mr. President, is for the committee to come up with some standard so that it is not done on the whim and caprice of the original proponents of this measure.
Thank you to the distinguished Minority Leader, Mr. President, for that question. I guess there are two main standards being followed here. The first is that there is deference to the local bill filed by the congressman, since he is speaking for the people of that constituency.
We agree with that, deference, yes.
So if you notice, these are House bills, and as much as possible, we did not add anything to these bills. They are coming to us untouched, so to speak. And the second, I think, Mr. President, is that the dates being commemorated are important days in the history of the community. And with respect to the bill mentioned by the distinguished Minority Leader commemorating the flood, in deference to his wishes, we have not pushed that bill. We have asked for it to be...
Mr. President, it is not in deference to the wishes of the Minority Leader. It's a question of policy. Should we celebrate occasions such as this? Because these are some things, these are certain things which, you know, we must examine closely as an issue of check and balance between our two chambers. So all that we're asking is to have some guide for us, members of this chamber, to be guided by the committee on what areas. For example, is it a rule that we should have only one non-working holiday in each local in each area, whether or not the particular municipality or province is within the city? For example, there are cases where the province celebrates or commemorates, say, a foundation day, to include, of course, the capital or a municipality. And then the municipality also has its own holiday. Should this be allowed? If it is, then we just want to hear recommendations from the committee, because in effect we will be a country of holidays.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do agree with the Minority Leader that there must be standards here, and I thank him for pointing that out. He's definitely been very diligent in pushing for this, even at the national level. And with respect to the maximum number, I have conferred with my staff, and the maximum number is 2 non-working holidays per locality. One is usually the Foundation Day, and the second is either a saint or an important hero or personality from that locality, Mr. President.
So how many municipalities and cities do we have in the country, just for the record?
I think we have about a little less than 1,500 municipalities. For cities, I think we have about 145, something like that.
So are we saying that we should be prepared to declare non-working holidays in 1,000 plus of these municipalities and all of these cities?
Hindi naman po, Mr. President, because I think the committee has heard a total of 60 bills. So that's the, so far that is the...
But if the standard is what the good gentleman from Aurora asserted, then to push it to its logical conclusion, you'll have 1,000 holidays in all the local holidays.
Well, if each community would, yes, I would
Yes.
agree with him. That's the logical conclusion. But as a practical matter, it's not. That's not what's happening right
So anyway, can we just maybe ask the sponsor to spread into the record what are the standards that the committee would now follow in recommending the approval of local bills of this nature, so that we will know what to expect. Not now, but maybe in the next session, if we can have spread into the record the standards being followed by the committee in seeking the approval of the chamber on these bills of local application. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Minority Leader. We will do that. Thank you for that, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Mr. President. Senator Lacson is recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to echo the concerns raised by my distinguished minority leader. Out of the 1,489 municipalities, 145 cities, 81 provinces, how many local holidays are there? As of today,
Ilan ang total? 184 local.
because each municipality, I suppose, is celebrating its foundation day.
There are
Which
184 declared or legislated
In
local
all-
holidays.
In all provinces, cities, and municipalities?
Yes, that's what the committee.
So far?
Yes, yes, Mr. President.
So not all provinces, not all 81 provinces are celebrating their foundation day? and
Not
not
all
all-
maybe are legislated, Mr. President. That was my interpretation of the question. I may be wrong, but my interpretation of the question was
Legislated
that,
or otherwise?
well, otherwise
many?
probably all provinces celebrate that.
And
But-
all
yeah.
1,489 municipalities, I suppose, are celebrating their foundation day.
Probably, Mr. President, yes.
And that's just the minimum.
That's the minimum
Because
because
as
I
for-
notice, Mr. President, many localities have at least two. As mentioned earlier, it is the Foundation Day, and secondly, it's usually a saint, the Feast of San Isidro, or the, like in the case of Bulacan, it's the Feast Day of Marcelo del Pilar. So usually one variant of the
Yeah,
other.
so may we be provided such data, Mr. President?
Yes, yes, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lacson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that, we'd like to move to close the period of interpellation.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period of interpellation is hereby closed.
Other amendments? There being no committee or individual amendments, Mr. President, we move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendment is closed.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading House Bill number 5563. I so move. What was that?
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 5563 is approved on second reading.
Yes, sir. There's a request from Senator Lacson on the requirements.
Fine, that's
I believe the honorable sponsor will, if it's all right with the body, we can give the answer for the next holiday, sir, is right now.
Said,
There's 3 more.
I'd like to entertain a motion to suspend consideration before you
You want
continue.
to suspend? Mr. President?
Mr.
You
President,
passed it on
I'm not
second
trying to
reading.
derail passage of this bill. Maybe in the next holiday to be legislated, we need those data, Mr. President.
Yes. So what would the pleasure be of this?
It's okay, it's
It's all
fine.
right to finish this 3.
Thank you.
We only have 3 left, Mr. President. Maybe next week when we tackle again local bills on holidays, we'll ask the sponsor to spread into the record the criteria or the standards to allow them or to grant them these holidays.
The
Mr. President,
minority leader is recognized.
Just for the record, we should take note of the fact that we have national holidays. How many are these? 12? I have lost count. Which is observed all over the country. And then we have Foundation Day for the province. So the Foundation Day for the province is already one more. And then you have the foundation, which Foundation Day for the province will also include all the municipalities in that province. and all cities in that province. And then, in addition, you would have Foundation Day for the municipalities. So this is something that we must rationalize, Mr. President, because I don't think this is good for our economy, that we have this kind of a system. And therefore, there is really a need for us to have at least the standards that the committee will follow. In fact, we again take note of the fact that there is a resolution approved by this chamber calling for a rationalization of these holidays. And this has never taken off. For what reason we are not familiar with. But this is proof that this chamber has already expressed its concern on this issue several months ago. So thank you, Mr. President, and we look forward to receiving this guideline from the good sponsor on holidays.
We pledge to do that in the next session day, Mr. President, and we thank the gentleman from Cavite for yielding with respect to the 3 holidays. And I would rather do the rationalization of the holidays rather than rationalization of fiscal incentives, Mr. President.
Yes, Senator, Mr. President, Senator.
Mr. President, just 2 minutes, just a clarification on the same issue.
Senator Ralph Recto is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the distinguished sponsor educate or inform this representative with regard to, can local governments or provincial governments, city and municipal governments declare a holiday in their locality?
I think the practice, Mr. President, is that they ask the President to issue an executive order to declare it a holiday.
Okay. But can they do it by themselves under the local government code? Okay. Look at that.
Apparently, no, Your Honor, it's the President who has the power.
But they can initiate it and ask the President through an executive order.
That's usually the practice, I was told. Yes.
And what is the effect now on workers' pay?
Pag EO, walang ano, di ba?
The local government.
If it is a special non-working holiday, the worker who reports to work on that day is entitled to an additional 30%.
30%?
Yes, on top of his regular pay.
This is local government initiated.
If it's declared by the President as a special non-working holiday, that's usually local government initiated.
Okay, and it's a 30% additional pay.
Yes.
If it is Congress by legislation, is there a difference?
It's the same. It's 30%
It's the
also.
same 30%.
Yes.
Okay. So the committee could provide us the information, as you have earlier, as far as legislated holidays are concerned.
Yes, we
You
can do that,
mentioned
Mr.
180.
President. Yes, Mr. President.
Now, the committee would have also the information on what Senator Lacson was requesting. How many executive orders the President has signed declaring local
We'll
holidays?
endeavor to get it. I don't know if we can get it in time by Monday, but
Yes.
we'll definitely try, Mr. President.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Same lang pala.
Yeah.
Akala ko kasi double yung ano.
The Minority Floor Leader and some of our colleagues would like to ask also the sponsor to give the listing of the holidays already on local government.
Yes, we will furnish all our colleagues.
Legislative holidays,
President, yes.
legislated holidays.
You are pertaining to holidays that were passed by Congress.
Yes, sir,
Ano,
legislated holidays.
there are a number of holidays passed by the local governments through ordinances.
Yes, Your Honor. But I believe the question of Senator Ralph Recto, and we also further query the 2 mayors that are here, Mayor J.V. Ejercito and Mayor Sherwin Gatchalian, and they say that the local government units, Your Honor, cannot declare non-working holidays. They need to bring it up to the President for an executive order for declaration of a special non-working.
If non-working, but if a regular, not a commemoration or foundation without non-working can be
Yes,
done
it's
by the
allowed, sir.
ordinances.
I
Yes.
believe they are allowed to do that
Yes,
in the
yes.
ordinances.
So you're asking for a list of legislated
Legislated holidays.
All right.
Non-working holidays. Yes, Mr. President. It's more fun in the Philippines. We all love holidays. I think it's a throwback of the Spanish era.
Correct.
Yes, sir. In Europe, they love their holidays there. But with that, Mr. President, we move to resume consideration on holidays on House Bill number 6178. I so move, Mr. President.
6178.
Yes, Mr. President, this is an act declaring January 11 of every year.
All right.
In the
Consideration
province
of the measure is suspended.
Oh, resume consideration, sir. We're moving for the resumption of consideration.
What are you talking about? 6178?
Yes, sir.
We
Number
already
14 on the
passed
agenda.
5563 and we have not suspended.
Oh, my apologies, sir, if we did not suspend. I move to suspend consideration of House Bill number 5563. I so move, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any objection? Chair hears none. Consideration of 5563 is hereby suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Now you can proceed.
Thank you. My apologies. My overeagerness. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration of House Bill number 6178. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 6178's consideration is in order.
Mr. President, there being no member that wish to interpolate, we move to close the period of interpolation.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpolation is hereby closed.
There being no committee and individual amendments, we also move to close the period of amendments, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendments is closed.
Mr. President, move to approve on second reading House Bill number 6178. I so move.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 6178 is passed on second reading.
Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
The consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration on House Bill number 6418. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. House Bill 6418's consideration is in order.
This is an act declaring October 26th of every year on the province of Catanduanes. Catanduanes. Mr. President, there being no member that wish to interpolate the good sponsor, we move to close the period of interpolation.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendment is, period of interpolation is closed.
Mr. President, there being no amendments, we move to close the period of individual and committee amendments.
Any objection? There being none, period of amendment is closed.
Mr. President, move to approve on second reading House Bill number 6418. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, House Bill 6418 is passed on second reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the same.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Mr. President, on the last holiday, we would like to, there's a request from our colleagues that we just get the list of legislated holidays and as well as the standards given by the committee on agreeing to other holidays. So therefore, we move to other matters, Mr. President. We'd like to thank the committee sponsor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. Thank you to our distinguished Minority Leader. No problem.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, while we are waiting sponsors of certain bills, may we take a 10-minute Senate break for coffee and tea and urinary requirements. I so move, Mr. President.
Session is suspended for 10 Senate minutes.
Ready to issue, Mr. President.
Session is resumed. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I believe Senator Manny Pacquiao would like to take the floor.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our Committee on Public Works has already considered a counterpart bill in the Senate, namely Senate Bill number 1620, or the measure that abolishes the road board and transferring its powers and functions, including the management of the motor vehicle users charge funds, to the DPWH and DOTR, and the same has already been approved by the body on third reading. We then receive the transmittal of House Bill number 7436 for concurrence, entitled An Act Abolishing the Road Board and Providing for the Distribution and Management of the Motor Vehicle Users Charge Collections, amending for the purpose Republic Act number 8794, entitled An Act Imposing a Motor Vehicle Users Charge on owners of all types of other purposes. With that, Mr. President, and with the consent of the body, I move that we adopt House Bill number 7436 as an amendment to Senate Bill number 1620 since a bicameral conference committee meeting. I so move, Mr. President.
We have a motion from Senator Pacquiao to adopt the House version. The Minority Leader is recognized.
Mr. President, as far as I recall, and the records will bear us out, this bill is in the Committee on Rules. If that is confirmed by the Majority Leader?
The House version, yes, Mr. President. The House version.
The House version is in the Committee on Rules. May we therefore propose that before that, as an antecedent motion, that the matter be reported out by the Committee on Rules and considered on the floor with the manifestation of Senator Pacquiao as the sponsorship speech. So, with the concurrence of the Majority Leader. Because it is right now technically in the Committee on Rules.
So what you're saying is that when we received the copy of the House version, it was referred to the Committee on Rules.
That's correct, sir. Not to the Committee on Public Works.
Yes, so it is there right now.
Yes.
And therefore, the initial motion of the Senator Pacquiao should be to consider into the floor the House version.
Maybe, Mr.
That's
President.
correct, in behalf of the Committee on Rules, Mr. President.
Yes. Yes. Or I could also make the motion now,
Yes.
Mr. President, with the permission of the body,
Yes.
that the bill, I believe it's Senate House Bill number 7436, be transferred to the Committee on Public Works. I refer to the Committee on Public Works and Highways.
Also possible.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The motion is approved.
So maybe we can restate the motion of the good gentleman from General Santos.
We now call for the previous question, which is
My motion, Mr. President, to adopt the House version, Mr. President, the House Bill 7436
as an amendment.
as an amendment to Senate Bill number 1620 sans a bicameral conference committee meeting.
Before we act on the motion, Mr. President, maybe out of clarity, we just want, maybe the colleagues would like, our colleagues might ask questions later on. I believe the good gentleman from Sarangani is the author of our version abolishing the road board. I believe his motion is to adopt the House version with concurrence of his committee members. And the reason being, Mr. President, is as chairman and sponsor of the measure, we follow a committee system here in the Senate, wherein the chairman usually is the ponente, he's the head of his committee. And is it the wish of may I ask a question to my colleague from Mindanao? Is it the wish of our distinguished gentleman from Mindanao, Senator Manny Pacquiao, to just adopt the House version?
That's correct, Mr. President. My motion is to adopt the House version, Mr. President.
All right. Any objection? The chair hears none. Motion is approved. Senate adopts the House version.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, since we have agreed to accept the House version on the abolition of the Road Users Board bill to forego with the Bicameral Conference Committee meeting and for the immediate enactment of this of the said bill into law, I move that we recall the Senate Bicam panel on the said measure. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, the panel is recalled.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
May we have just additional reference of business, Mr. President? I believe some of our colleagues are waiting for the reference of business so that they can ask for 1 minute suspension, Mr. President.
1 minute suspension.
Nini Comia. Si Ignis. Sir, si Judge Opo, sa si pinapilitan po niya kay President. Shortlist po siya kay Police Evolution.
Ayun na ba yun?
Ganda rin, parang isa din yun.
Child safety in motor vehicle.
Ayan, child safety.
if he wants us to propose this amendment. May in-approve tayo ng Dilo. Hindi local, hindi holiday. May in-approve tayo ng Dilo.
Kaya tayo nagkakamali dahil sa mga ras-ras na yan.
Yep.
Child protection muna tayo. Ready to resume, Mr. President.
Session is resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1971 under Committee Report number 427. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Same is approved.
Mr. President, this is an act providing for special protection of child passengers in motor vehicles and provide the appropriations thereof. The statuses were in the period of interpellation. We'd like to recognize the sponsor, Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito, and to interpolate our distinguished Senate President, Vicente Tito Soto III.
The pride of the city of San Juan, Senator J.V. Ejercito is recognized, and the pride of Quezon City and the whole nation
Cebu.
is recognized, Senate President Tito Soto.
Cebu and Nueva Ecija, Mr. President.
Okay, Cebu and Nueva Ecija, I stand corrected, Mr. President.
Thank you. Mr. President, will the distinguished gentleman from San Juan favor us with some clarifications based on the Senate Bill 1971?
Certainly, Mr. President, anytime from our Senate President himself.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, I'd like to congratulate the gentleman for this. This is very much needed, I believe, and it is in tandem with the seatbelt law that I sponsored here in the Senate many years ago. So let me start by clarifying some of the definitions in the bill. When you say child restraint system, is this limited to car seats, or are there other devices that correspond to this definition?
Yes, Mr. President, that refers to the car seat, no? The child car seat, Mr. President.
So it's limited only to child car seats, child restraint system.
Mr. President, however, there are different types of child car seats, but basically it's really, it refers to the child car seats.
So this is, when you say child restraint system, it could be other systems that will fall under the category of a child car seat.
It's just the car seats, Mr. President. It's just, they're just different types, but basically it's the car seats that will be installed for children below 12 to be so that it will be safer for them to be in a motor vehicle.
Well, you practically answered my next question, but allow me to place it on record that in Section 4 of the bill, it says that, quote, "It shall be unlawful for the driver of a covered vehicle not to properly secure at all times a child in a child restraint system while transporting." Now, the question is, what is the age covered by this bill to be mandatorily secured in a child restraint device? You earlier said 12 years old and below. Is that correct?
Yes, you are correct, Mr. President. It's 12 children 12 years old and below.
May we know your basis for setting the age at 12 years old?
Yes, Mr. President, because there are numerous studies that were conducted that bone development of children 12 years old and below is not yet complete, no? Some of them may look big already as adults, no? Some are very tall, but inside their skeletal system, it's still developing, no? That's according to the studies, Mr. President.
So they would not be as secure as an adult in a vehicle? Is that what that means? I find 12 years old a bit too old to be mandated to be secured in a child restraint device.
Yes, Mr. President, you are correct, because there are some teenagers who are already 12 years old who are already tall. But as I mentioned, the bone development of children below 12 years old is not yet complete. No? But of course, if you have any suggestions, Mr. President, we'll gladly take note and might accept any suggestion.
May we know what is the law or the prevailing law in other countries, in particular in this case, the United States? That is a country that is very strict when it comes to child restraint seats.
Yes, Mr. President, in the United States, since it's a federal system, it depends on the state. No? There are some with 12 years old, they made some with 16, right? 16, there's 8, but international, in the international standards, I think it's 12 years old, Mr. President. 12 years old international.
16?
16, so state of Alabama, according to our sources here, that there is 16 years old. No? But I think it's 12, by international standard, Mr. President, 12 years old. According to World Health Organization resolution.
Okay, let's stay at the 12 first. Allow me to move on a little bit. In 8750, RA 8750, or the Seatbelt Law of 1999, which I authored and sponsored on the Senate floor, Section 5 states that children prohibited to sit in front seat, infants and or children with ages 6 years and below shall be prohibited to sit in the front seat of any running motor vehicle. Now, in your bill, Section 5 states that no child 12 years and below of age shall be allowed to sit in a front seat of a motor vehicle. Does your bill now seek to amend also Republic Act 8750?
Yes, Mr. President, that's the intention, to be with the international standard, which is 12 years old. But we'll be amenable to whatever the suggestion of the Senate President would be.
We'll get to that perhaps during the period of amendment. Now, in Section 5, line 47 of your bill, it's stated that a child 12 years and below will be allowed to sit in front if he or she is at least 150 centimeters or 59 inches or 4'11" in height and capable to properly fit in the regular seat belt. Although I know of adults who are below 4'11".
Yes, Mr. President.
Would you know the current average height of a 12-year-old Filipino child?
Mr. President, average height probably for a 12-year-old Filipino may about 4'11" to 5 feet.
What about adults, Mr. Sponsor? What about adults who are 4'11"?
They will have to be in a child restraint seat.
But even if it's 411, but an adult's bones are fully developed already.
Ah, okay. The bones.
The bones, it's
And
bones development is being considered, Mr. President.
Well, this is a provision, parang additional exemption to those enumerated in Section 4, lines 31 to 40. Hindi po ba? Ganun ba? Parang additional exemption ito.
In a way, Mr. President, yes, it's an additional exemption.
All right. Then also, I hope the distinguished gentleman will not mind during the period of amendment, we can perhaps look at this a second, we can give it a second look. All right. In Section 7, what do you mean by expired child restraint seat?
Ilang years pa pwede?
May expiration date ba ito?
Yeah. Meron yan. Gano'ng katagal? Hindi kasi sa helmet 5 years. Depends, Mr. President, on the manufacturer's standards. So, from what I know, even in the helmets, motorcycle helmets, it has a life of 5 years. Even if it still looks good, but Mr. President, if it's 5 years or more, it's already considered expired. So the same applies with the child restraint system, and according to our backstop here, average is about 9 years for a child restraint system. So after 9 years, it is considered as expired already.
Parang ang hirap implement nito, Mr. President. Una, hindi makikita nung enforcer. Di ba? Lalo na dito sa atin, puro naka-heavy tint. And then, they don't know if it's expired or not. The car seat, no? Nevertheless.
But we will, Mr. President, we will require that there will be marking about the date of manufacture. In the IRR, we will recommend that the date of manufacture would be posted, will be on the child restraint system, just like motorcycle helmets, Mr. President. The life of 5 years, so for child restraint is about 9 years.
I'll go to that, the IRR, in a while. Just one more point that bothers me. Again, in Republic Act 8750, the Seatbelt Law of 1999, Section 4 provides that it is mandatory that the driver and the front seat passengers of a public or private motor vehicle are required to wear or use their seatbelt devices. This came about during the time that we were debating this. I distinctly remember Senator Rene Cayetano was debating me on this matter, and Senator Chupisto Gingona. We agreed that, yes, it's as far as jeepneys are concerned, public and private motor vehicles, yung front seat lang ang dapat lagyan ng seatbelt dahil yung mga jeep, imposible. Nalalagyan mo ng seatbelt lahat ng pasahero.
Yes, sir.
So, how do you intend to implement this law in public utility vehicles? Paano sasakay yung magulang sa jeep at may kasamang anak na 6 years old? Walang child restraint seat yung jeep.
Mr. President, according to Section 12 of this bill, nothing in this act shall prohibit the DOTR from issuing rules and regulations requiring the use of child restraint systems in public motor vehicles, such as but not limited to jeepneys, buses, including school buses, taxis, vans, coasters, accredited affiliated service vehicles of transportation network companies, and all motor vehicles used for public transport. So, Mr. President, it's the DOTR who will be mandated to conduct a study on how they will be able to implement, or if it's feasible, to implement the child restraint system on public vehicles, just as the seatbelt law, no, that found out that later on that it will be hard for jeepneys. But we would also, we will insist, no, for the DOTR to find a way on how this would be implemented even in public vehicles, Mr. President.
No, but in the case of the seatbelt law, Mr. President, with due respect to the gentleman, we placed it in the law. It is in the law that front seats lang ang pwede. We did not rely on the IRR or the DOTR. In this case, I'd hate to be in the shoes of the DOTR. How will they implement a child restraint seat in a jeepney?
Yes, it will be really a challenge, Mr. President. But
the driver, this smacks of class legislation. We are legislating against the cars. Dahil yung cars lang ang makakasunod nito, at yung mga jeep hindi makakasunod dito.
Yes, Mr. President, it's really
Pati mga bus.
difficult. Mahirap talaga, no? Jeepneys, buses. But according also to our resource persons here, that even in other countries, the law is specifically is for private vehicles. No? They so for public transport, probably it's just the DOTR who would issue or determine. So, but according to this bill would only cover private vehicles for child restraint system, Mr. President.
Why are we legislating against the cars, Mr. President? I have difficulty realizing what our reason would be. Sa mga kotse, not actually safe, mas safe without a child restraint seat, kesa sa mga jeepney na walang child restraint seat. Mas unsafe yun. But the enforcement would be very difficult. Now, going to the what you mentioned earlier about IRR, the seatbelt law of 1999 was enacted in August of 1999, while the implementing rules and regulations was only approved May 2000, or 9 months after. Now, Republic Act 10666, the Children's Safety on Motorcycles Act of 2015, which I also principally authored, was signed into law July 2015. And the IRR was approved 2 years thereafter, April 2017.
2 years after.
How can we ensure now the passage of this bill and the corresponding IRR will be available
immediately,
right away, and, within, say, 6 months, or within the effectivity or Section 10 of this bill? That is the problem that I am encountering now, Mr. President.
Well, Mr. President, we are hoping that only after 1 year, the IRR would be ready, and that this act would be enforced already in only 1 year. We do not want the same to be suffered by the law that you have passed, no? The motorcycles, preventing children in motorcycles, where it took about 2 years. So we're hoping that within 1 year that the IRR would be completed by the agencies concerned.
Well, we wish, Mr. President. Now, again, moving forward, Section 6 of the measure requires all manufacturers, importers, distributors, and sellers of child restraint systems to secure from the Bureau of Product Standards, or BPS, a Philippine Standards PS mark, license, or import clearance certificate, license, prior to the marketing, sale, and distribution of these products. Question, Mr. President. Presently, is the Bureau of Product Standards issuing such PS Mark license or ICC license to manufacturers, importers, distributors, and sellers of child restraint system?
From what I know, Mr. President, motorcycle helmets are required. No, they're issued ICC.
ICC.
Import clearance certificate. So they, from what I know, that agency attaches a sticker that it's ICC approved, and the safety standards of that particular products were tested already. From what I know, it's just motorcycle helmets at this time who has that particular safety approval.
How about car seats? Presently, do they have this PS Mark license or ICC license? I doubt it, ano?
I doubt, Mr. President, because that comes already with the vehicle.
All right, now because if not, that means that the existing child restraint systems that if ever there are, cannot be used anymore by the child covered by this act when it is implemented, because it does not pass the standards, or they have not passed yung safety standards from the BPS. How much is one, Mr. President?
The price range, Mr. President, will be from about 2,090 to 35,000, and currently there are about 6 to 8 brands available in our local market, Mr. President. So 2,090 to 35,000.
Ang
the price
pinakamura,
range.
2,090.
2,090.
And then the most expensive is around 35,000.
35,000. Malamang yung 2,090, mukhang China ito, Mr. President.
There are 68 brands.
Yung 35,000, baka Recaro po ito. Probably Recaro. Or the more expensive brands of car seats, Mr. President.
Paano ngayon yung mga existing na child restraint seats? Wala kasi sa bill natin dito na sinasabi na kung existing na at walang BPS license or certificate.
Mr. President, if you have any suggestion, then probably we can include it in the amendments. Probably we can, the existing child car seats can, as long as it passes the standards of the manufacturer, as long as it's not yet expired, then probably it can pass as safe for use.
Well, anyway, Mr. President, I do not want to belabor the issue with the distinguished gentleman. I am looking forward to going to the drawing board and think of how I will be able to propose amendments. I need further study of the measure, Mr. President. I think the Minority Leader wishes to be recognized, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anything, especially from you who really drives himself, you know the ins and outs of the safety of every vehicle. So any suggestion from you will be most welcome.
We recognize the Minority Leader, the pride of Iloilo Province.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the gentleman sponsor yield to a few questions?
Certainly, Mr. President, it will be an honor from the distinguished Minority Leader.
Mr. President, Section 4 of the proposed measure, starting with line 24 to 29 on page 2, mandates the mandatory use of child restraint system in privately owned motor vehicles. Just to spread into the record, this does not cover public utilities.
Yes, Mr. President. That was also pointed out earlier by the Senate President. It's even in other countries, no, their law regarding child restraint system only covers the private vehicles, Mr. President.
Because did I hear the sponsor state during the interpellation of the Senate President that the DOTR may issue rules and regulations to cover public vehicles?
Now, Mr. President, just to clarify, the DOTR is mandated to conduct a study on how public vehicles, no, could implement having safety features. Just like I know it's quite a challenge on how they will be able to fit in the child restraint system in the public vehicles, but they are also mandated to conduct a study on how they could put safety devices or safety system for children who would be using the public vehicles, Mr. President.
So it is just a study to be conducted by the DOTR? For public vehicles. Nothing else?
For public vehicles, Mr. President, yes. Unfortunately, this bill covers the private vehicles only, Mr. President.
Well, I will leave the technical matters to the Senate President, who was the author of similar laws, to debate or to point out what amendments can be had on Section 5. But I just wanted to reiterate and spread into the record that it covers only privately owned vehicles because of the impossibility of extending the prohibition on public utilities.
Yes, Mr. President, this covers only by private vehicles. Because
Without
it's just the same.
clarification, Mr. President, we have no more questions.
Okay, thank you to the distinguished minority leader. In fact, all the suggestions will be welcome on how we will be able to improve further this bill before we pass it.
Thank you, Mr. President. No other members at the moment would like to signify to interpolate. We move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the measure is hereby suspended.
Mr. President, just a manifestation. Senator Grace Poe would like to be made co-sponsor of this measure, Senate Bill number 1971, and also Senator Gordon. It would like to just insert to the records the co-sponsorship speech.
Senators Poe and Gordon are hereby made co-sponsors, and the Secretariat is instructed to insert their sponsorship speeches in the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, may, with the permission of the body, move to transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to the calendars for special orders. Senate Bill number 1997, under Committee Report number 439. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
With the consent of the body and our colleagues, Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1997.
Any objections? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
May we ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure?
Secretary General is so directed.
Senate Bill number 1997, an act creating the Regional Investment and Infrastructure Coordinating Hub of Central Luzon and for other purposes.
Mr. President, may we recognize the sponsor of the measure, Senator Richard Dick Gordon.
We recognize the pride of City of Olongapo and the Republic of the Philippines, Senator Richard Gordon.
Thank you very much to the pride of Aurora. That small city with the pre-port zone, which we support wholeheartedly. Mr. President, thank you very much. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. I'm honored to sponsor today Senate Bill number 1997, entitled an act creating the Regional Investment and Infrastructure Coordinating Hub of Central Luzon and for other purposes. We call it RICH, Mr. President, because that is the purpose of every government, to enrich the people, not just the leaders, but certainly the people. And this measure encourages and promotes investments in infrastructure, particularly in Central Luzon, to address bottlenecks lay the foundation for long-term growth of the region, create jobs, and improve the quality of life for the people which we badly need. Mr. President, we are all aware, if you look at the map, that Central Luzon is so near to Manila. Central Luzon has the China Sea, or the West Philippine Sea, and the Pacific Ocean, because Aurora is part of it. And in fact, the late Senator Angara and myself have been talking about a canal to Atimonan so that ships coming from the United States can cross over to Atimonan to get to Batangas Bay, to Manila Bay, and to Subic Bay. Mr. President, the Central Luzon area is very, very much endowed with great infrastructure. In fact, if you would look at the past, Mr. President, Central Luzon, as early as the days of Rizal, had a railway. Unfortunately, the railway is gone, and this is what the railroad looks today. It is practically just, tracks in the history or in time that have gone, Mr. President. In the past, it went all the way to Dagupan and all the way to La Union. And as you can see, Ferro Carril de Manila a Dagupan. This is where nakaliwa po ni Piking si Rizal kay Leonor Rivera sa Dagupan. He was a British manager, if I'm not mistaken, of the train at that time. Why do I cite the train? Because this shows what we have lost in the past. Dapat, nung araw, the train could have really sparked the development of our country. And we missed out on that opportunity. When the bases were turned over by the United States after we asked them to leave, the bases left infrastructure par excellence. And as you know, I took over Subic right away with our vision of a free port. And right away, the free port rose and created hundreds of thousands of jobs. Today, we have 120,000 jobs inside Subic, not to mention the job opportunities that are created in the adjoining areas of Bataan, Zambales, Pampanga, Tarlac, Nueva If you're to include Clark, I'm sure you'll find about 1 million people or 2 million people would have jobs related to the bases. An infrastructure of airports and seaports, Mr. President, left by the Americans. And when you add that to Manila, Subic, Clark, international airports, as well as Manila International Airport, you're practically having a situation like that of New York, where they have LaGuardia Airport, where they have JFK, and they have Newark Airport, and they have the New Jersey-New York Port Authority. And this has created an area na talagang napakalakas ng hanap buhay at talagang nagpapatakbo ng negosyo doon sa mga lugar na yan at gumagawa ng mga trabaho sa maraming tao. Mr. President, when we develop this, you also have 3 seaports in Central Luzon. Subic Seaport, the Mariveles Seaport, as well as the Manila Seaport. Now, Mr. President, Mariveles was built as a seaport during the time of President Marcos. In fact, a highway system was built. The first one, the North Expressway. It went all the way to Mariveles, Bataan, where we had the export processing zone. The first export processing zone in the country. But somehow, we have a tendency in this country to drop the ball on all these opportunities. And now, we do not intend to miss that opportunity by creating all the strengths of all the provinces in Central Luzon to become a model, perhaps, that we can share with the rest of the country, where you maximize the 3 airports and the 3 seaports, you maximize the road, the NLEX, as well as the TIPLEX, the SCTEX, which goes everywhere in Central Luzon, as well as the Olongapo-Gapan Highway. Now, Mr. President, I'm saying nothing new. Southern Luzon actually overtook Central Luzon, and it did not even have its own airport and seaports. If you go down SCTEX, they managed, through the leadership of the governors of Cavite, the governors of Laguna, Batangas, and all the other areas, to build Calabar Zone. And using that highway, they were able to build what they call the Detroit of the Philippines in Laguna, Your Honor, and in many other places. And if you go there now, you can see the development of these areas. Now, Mr. President, in addition to this, when Subic Bay was built, a lot of people thought it was going to go the way of many other ports like Sandy Point, which nothing happened. When Subic Bay was built, right away we were able to get industries because ready-made na yung infrastructure. Meron po tayong mga ginawang zone, umutang pa kami sa World Bank, binigyan kami ng grant para makagawa kaagad ng industrial park. This is precisely where we're headed here. With all this infrastructure, pwede tayo maglagay ng mga industrial parks sa bawat bayan. Bawat bayan in our country, who have their, in our provinces in Central Luzon, could now propose industrial parks that are properly master planned, properly subdivided, properly priced, properly provided with infrastructure, properly provided with housing. Para sa ganoon, magbibisikleta na lang ang tao patungo sa trabaho pag nagawa lahat sa zona yan. And the most important part about this, it will decongest Manila. Manila ay parang sa dami ng tao ay talagang masyadong mabigat na. It is so heavy in terms of population and traffic that it has become very difficult. Masdan po ninyo ang traffic, halos hindi na makagalaw. And today, we run on the base of speed. When I went into Subic, I learned I learned what I've always learned before, only more realistically. Speed is the name of the game in business. Kung mabagal ang takbo ng port, mahirapan tayo. Katulad sa Manila, mabagal masyado yung port. Samantala may Subic port tayo. Meron tayong Mariveles. Kung mabagal ang airport, nakita natin about 2 weeks ago, napapahiya ho tayo sa buong mundo dahil hindi natin mapatakbo yung ating airport, hindi ginamit yung Subic, hindi ginamit yung Clark. So today, I rise para mapakita na kaya natin gawin lahat yan. And also, kaya natin i-relieve ang tao natin pamamagitan ng pagbibigay sa kanila ng pagkakataon makapamili. Choice, Mr. President. Freedom is about choices, Mr. President. The right to choose the best jobs available in a country and not have to go per force to another country to find their future in a foreign land. With this plan, Mr. President, we can now put industrial parks, agricultural parks, we can put tourism infrastructure and enterprise zones in the areas beside the bay, beside the beaches. And, Mr. President, we are adding nothing new. Walang gastos ito. Ang gastos lang dito yung pagtatayo ng pagsasubdivide ng mga bagong industrial parks na dapat hindi na ingunguso, ngunit nakalagay na parang si Senator Villar natin na ituturo lang kung anong lote ang bibilihin at ililis at nandun na rin ang kanilang mga eskwela na gagawin at napakaganda na nakaayos at magbibisikleta na lang ang tao. Hindi sila magigising na mga aga para pumasok sa trabaho sa Maynila at babalik na late, hindi na nakikita yung mga magulang nila at mga anak nila o mga kapatid nila at makakatipid. Mas mayroon silang disposable income at mas panatag ang kalooban dahil mismo doon sa kanayunan ay umabot finally ang industry, Mr. President. That is why I am very, very proud to have worked around Central Luzon. I talked with governors and mayors. We had meetings in Clark, in Subic, in Bulacan, in Pampanga, and Tarlac to present this, and all of them, the governors and the president and the congressmen are all foursquare behind this idea. In fact, they have also their own version of the bill, which they ask us to provide them, and it's also running now in the lower house, Mr. President. Having said that, Mr. President, what are we just going to add? The incentives are there for every PESA. So yung maglalagay ng PESA dyan, meron na silang incentives. Ang kakailangan nilang dito po ay yung coordination ng Subic, Clark, and the PESAs. Para sa ganun, pag may gustong pumunta, ay kaagad kakusapin na, pipili niya, gusto ko PESA, may PESA dito sa Nueva Ecija. And by the way, Mr. President, I inaugurated the PESA zone in a small community in Palanan, which had a one-stop shop, which had Japanese and English schooling for the people there, and they now have BPOs in that area. And my God, Mr. President, I was so impressed with them. And this is what we intend to do, Mr. President. What we intend to do is have the mayors now and the governors and the private sector coalesce para sila na magtatayo. Kung meron ang lupa na private, katulad doon sa Laguna, meron mga nagtatayo ng private industrial parks where they can now invite business at madaling makakuha sapagkat nakaset na ang infrastructure. Ang dagdag lang ho dito is we will require people who are going to go there na magtayo sila ng eskwela with support or ng mga bahay with support from the government. We could give them tax credits, for example, if they start to build homes out there. Pero ibigay lang yung tax credit pag natapos na yung development ng industrial park at yung mga bahay na ginawa. Hindi basta kukunin katulad ng dati, sinasalbahe yung mga tax credits na binibigay. It is important, Mr. President, that we look forward. I have an action that I've learned all my life. We must be focused. Nawala ang focus natin, nawala ang railroad. We lost the railroad. Nawala ang focus natin, hindi natin nagamit yung airport and seaport. Ngayon lang natin na-realize, ang gaganda pala ng airport natin. Bakit kailangan mabagal tayo? We could have taken over as we did in Subic, yung FedEx. Nung nawala ang FedEx and poor leadership came in, without due respect, hindi nakita kagad yun, nawala yan. Kaya ngayon, nilalakad doon natin. Kanina kasama ko si Senator Ejercito, and we were talking about developing the harbor, the dredging, para lumalim at makapunta mga barko, mga malalaking barko katulad ng mga cruise lines, and at the same time, involve the airport in the development as well. Having said that, Mr. President, ang maganda pa rito, pagka may bahay na, ay talagang napakaganda sa quality of life ng bawat Pilipino. Imagine, you don't have to wake up early and you can go right there near your area. At saka ito, guided and development. Dito sa tabi ng mga industrial parks na ito, we would have housing, and it doesn't have to be one-story housing. Pwede natin gawing 5-story housing para mas marami pa tayong lupang magagawa. At meron na silang mga eskwela, meron na silang hospital doon na ilalagay. So that the well-being of our people are thoroughly protected, Mr. President. And what is the best part of it? The best part about it is now we can decongest Manila and start the redevelopment of a new Manila, a new Metro Manila, where we can unload many of the traffic and really make sure that we get back the Manila that we all grew up into. Instead of low slung houses, you will have higher, taller buildings in Manila with better planning, with better parks and playgrounds, and with wider streets, Mr. President. This is an opportunity that we cannot miss. That's why I say focus, but also we must provide speed or fast, and it must be friendly to the investor and to the community. Na maintindihan nila kung ano yun. It must be flexible so we can make the necessary turns when it happens, and it must be forward-looking. Those are the 5 F's upon which we always base whatever activity we do, and that is what the whole world does. Can you imagine an Israel, Mr. President? An Israel where Central Luzon is bigger. O wag na niyong isipin yung Israel, Mr. President. A Singapore, which has only 770 hectares or square kilometers, and when you compare that with the Central Luzon, we would have 23,000 more or less of square kilometers that will now be suddenly available. You look at the slide, you can see we have 22,000 in Central Luzon, in Singapore 719, Israel has 20,330 square kilometers. Now remember, Israel had no trains when they started. Israel had no lands that were developed. They only got their independence in 1948, and they had to fight for it. They had to have 4 wars, and yet Israel now has all the scientific universities, all the businesses. I just came from there. They have turned deserts into, plantations, and right now even Central Luzon and Manila are having problems with water because quote-unquote ang tubig sa groundwater bumabaksak na yung lupa, and they will be subject to what we call storm surges, and that's why we need to do this right away. There was a study being made by the Dutch, and I was astounded at the dangers that Manila and Central Luzon will face unless we act quickly. Having said that, Mr. President, if you look at the population of Central Luzon has 11 million people. When you look at the population of Singapore, 5.6 million people, and yet their per capita income is a lot higher. They have more investments. They have better infrastructure. They have a great SSS, if you will, a great provident fund that assures them, and that's what we're trying to do with the SSS, na magkaroon tayo ng mga pagkakataon. Kailangan natin mabigyan ng trabaho para lumawak lalo yung ating SSS, for example, yung ating provident fund. And this will help that, Mr. President. And also, Mr. President, when you start thinking in terms of an Israel, My gosh, they have jets, and we still are trying to get our first high-performance jets, and our jets are coming pa from Korea. Sila naka F-15, naka F-16s, and they now have the latest jets. Jets, JV? The F-22, that's correct. So, Mr. President, you can see, if we can develop Central Luzon into an Israel or a Singapore, all of which really domesticate the Philippines and make us look like pussycats instead of tigers, Mr. President, I think there will be a great, great future for our country. That is why I urge strongly our colleagues, and I know that all our colleagues want jobs and want savings. Look at our economy today. I mean, we are short of exports and high on imports, especially with build. Eh, magtataka ba tayo? Tumaas pa lagi, tumaas pa yung train, eh talagang magkakaroon tayo ng inflation. And what is the way to beat inflation? It is to create jobs, to create savings, to create disposable income, so that, in other words, may pambili ang Pilipino. Ang pakay po natin dito ay makakuha ng maraming trabaho na may pambili ang Pilipino. Eh sinasabi natin, bibigyan namin kami trabaho. No, ang kailangan nila ay pambili. Pag may trabaho, may pambili. Gusto natin equal opportunities. Have social benefits spread out. Yan ang binibigyan natin pagka nagawa ito. It's not gonna be easy. And I've always said the hard way is always the best way. But I believe if we do this, Mr. President, Central Luzon will suddenly jump out of the woodwork. And can you imagine, if you are from the Department of Foreign Affairs, you're an ambassador. When you go to a foreign country and say, come over to our country, you have nothing to sell. And I will just share this, Mr. President. When I was chairman of Subic, the biggest compliment I got was from the ambassadors when they said, alam nyo, maganda ho, Mr. Chairman ng SBMA, meron kami may bebenta na may airport, may seaport, ready na yung infrastructure, at nakakapagbenta kami, nakakalapit kami na may papakita kami. Can you imagine if we have a Central Luzon this big? Ready na yung mga industrial parks, ready na yung mga communities, at makikita na may mga incentives na tama lang, eh tiyak ho, magagawa yan. Ang kailangan na yung coordinating arms. So kasama dito ang Subic, ang Clark, ang Manila, ang APECO, kasama hula dyan. Para sa ganon, they can make the decisions and farm it out to PESA, farm it out to a regime of Subic Bay Freeport or Clark Freeport, or farm it out to an APECO, or farm it out to what we call the TSS, Mr. President. So having said that, Mr. President, wala naman masyadong gastos na gagawin dito. Yung ibibigay naman ng tax incentive ay mababawi. I will remind you, sir, that when we started Subic, halos walang budget, half a billion ang budget. Pero right away, for the last 25 or 26 years, ang Subic ay nagbibigay ng malaking income in taxes to the government. Nagbigay sila this year ng 1 billion in income to the national government. Nagbigay sila sa communities around the bases. Nagbigay sila ng maraming trabaho, umandar ang mga ekonomiya. And this is exactly what we want to do right here, Mr. President. I'm very passionate about this. I believe it in my heart that when we do this, I think we can have development. And can you imagine, in Iloilo, they can have their own. And I'm trying to cater to my old friend here. Iloilo has been developed as an airport. They have their seaports. They have plenty of land. Why should not we wait until we get it together? All we have to do is get our act together, and then you present it to the whole world, and then all our ambassadors can sell at Iloilo. They can sell Davao. They can sell Cagayan de Oro, Northern Mindanao. They can sell regions, Mr. President. No longer are we going to be parochial. You can see congressmen, senators, local government officials working together instead of going on, some people will think that they're going on a junket, but when they go back, you can see them coalescing, working with other leaders of other countries to say, we have something to offer for a way of investments. And Mr. President, when we do this, I think we're giving hope. Look around us and listen to the noise around us, Mr. President. What do we hear? We hear the noise of dissent, of dissatisfaction. There is no hope. There's even despair at times, Mr. President. And what we want to do is give people hope. We are politicians, but we are good politicians in the Senate. All of us, I consider good politicians. But what is important about a good politician? We're in the business of providing hope. We're in the business of drawing out the best in our people so they can have the choice that they want, so they can be part of the included, not the excluded, Mr. President. So they can be part of those who can earn their future, not by fearing the future, but making the future their friend, Mr. President. And so today, I stand proud here, and I hope we can do this as fast as we can, because we need this. Nakakaya po pag tinignan nyo yung Central Luzon na wala yung bakat, nakikita nyo lang yung bakat ng railroad. America had the railroad and it became a big jump. And I say that only because starting this year, they will have the railroad being built between Subic and Clark, which means the ports will be used, which means more development will come in. If you have shipping, if you have railroad, it's speed, then you can put up the industrial parks and they will come in here. I quite frankly see no downside to this except pag naging greedy yung iba o sabi na naman, mas magaling ako dapat sa iyo o mas marami dapat sa akin. But here, we put up a common cause, a common objective, a shared vision with shared values, with shared struggles will result in shared triumphs, not defeats, shared victories and triumphs, Mr. President. On that note, Mr. President, I close and I urge our colleagues here to speed up the passage of this bill. Thank you all very much, and God bless the Republic of the Philippines.
Thank you, Senator Gordon. We can replicate Subic all over Central Luzon, but how I wish we could clone more Dick Gordons.
Yes, absolutely agree, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. I wish we can clone the Sunny Angaras as well, and all of us here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study the bill further, may we move to suspend consideration on Senate Bill number 1997.
Any objections? Hearing none, the measure, hearing the measure is hereby suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the presiding officer has a bill as well to sponsor. So may I ask for a 1 minute suspension?
Yes,
so that
session suspended for 1 minute.
Yes.
Session resumed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we move to resume consideration on, where is that? Senate Bill, Sanya? Yes, Mr. President, I move to resume consideration on Senate Bill number 1843. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, there being no member that would like to interpolate the said measure, we move to close the period of interpolation.
Any objection? There being none, period of interpolation is closed.
Mr. President, I move to open the period of amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, motion is approved.
Mr. President, may we recognize the sponsor for the amendments?
Senator Sunny Angara is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader. We have one amendment from our colleague from Tarlac, and with his permission, we've been asked to read it. This is on page 7, line 12, to insert a new paragraph to read as follows. 10, youth development programs, dash, this refers to an LGU's ability to promote and establish adequate, effective, responsive, and enabling mechanisms and support systems that will ensure the meaningful participation of the youth in local governance and nation building. Indicators include, but are not limited to, A, adopting a local youth development program, B, establishing a local youth development council, C, providing a youth development office which shall be headed by a youth development officer, and D, instituting policies, programs, and systems in order to support and promote the vital role of youth in local governance. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The amendment is approved.
No other amendments, Mr. President.
Committee also, no? Mr. President, with no other amendments, both committee and individual, we move to close the period of amendments. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Period amendments is closed.
Mr. President, with that, I move to approve on second reading, Senate Bill number, 1843. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Bill 1843 is approved on second reading.
Congratulations to our sponsors, Senator Angara.
Thank you to our presiding officer, to our majority leader, and to our colleagues. Salamat
Thank
po.
you, Mr. President. Mr. President, move to suspend consideration of the same measure.
Consideration of the measure is suspended.
Before we adjourn, Mr. President, we just have additional reference of business, which is quite a bit important for our colleagues so that they may have committee hearings on Monday. I move for the additional reference of business.
The Secretary will proceed with the second additional reference of business.
Additional reference of business bills on first reading. Senate number 1999 entitled, An Act Exempting Farmer Cooperatives and Associations Engaged in the Trade of Organic Fertilizers from payment of registration, licensing fees, and administrative charges, granting amnesty for previous violations of Presidential Decree 1144 and amending for the purpose of Presidential Decree 1144, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Referred to the Committees on Agriculture and Finance.
Senate number 2000 entitled, An Act Amending Republic Act number 10361 or the Domestic Workers Act by clarifying that the fine imposed therein shall inure to the sole benefit of the aggrieved domestic worker, which shall be awarded in the same labor, civil or criminal proceedings instituted by the domestic worker, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Referred to the Committees on Labor, Social Justice.
Senate number 2001 entitled, An Act Transferring the Jurisdiction of Criminal Cases Arising from Violations of Commercial Laws to Special Commercial Courts, introduced by Senator Maria Lourdes Nancy S. Binay.
Referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights.
Senate number 2002 entitled, An Act Creating the Positions for Judges at Large, amending for the purpose Batas Pambansa Bilang 129, otherwise known as the Judiciary Reorganization Act of 1980, and appropriating funds therefore, introduced by Senator Richard J. Gordon.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Finance. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a gentle reminder to our colleagues, we have a mini LEDAC, I believe, on Monday at 9 a.m., if not mistaken, for the Minority Floor Leader, Majority Floor Leader, Senate President Pro Temp, and Senate President. With that, Mr. President, we move to adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday, September 17, 2018. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? There being none, the session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Monday, September 17, 2018.